back braking. Right then, rear brakes. Rear brakes. Now all this is coming off. I know I need new discs, so I'm going to take off the half shaft and undo the hub nut with the wheel still on, just to get a better grip on it. Hub nut bolts 21mm. Need a 21mm socket, which I don't happen to have, so I'm going to have to get one of those. So what's interesting here is that I'll talk about it later, but this hub nut here, which you've probably heard about if you're a Vario owner, it requires a special tool to get it off. Some people say I'll just use a chisel. Some people make their own tool and they clout it. So I didn't do that. I bought the special tool because I believe in buying the right tools for the job, and that's the thing that fits in there. And the reason you need that special tool is because this hub nut is incredibly tight. It needs to go up to 700 Newton meters on this axle. I'll explain that a bit later. So what I did was I left it on the ground like this with the handbrakes to attach, so that I can get a socket on it, get this special tool on it, and get a nice big fat bar on it to undo it. And what I found was, interestingly, although the end of the nut was pinned over, so it was pinned in there, it was in fact finger tight. And this truck, I've done about 2,000 miles in it since I've had it, and that was finger tight, which is actually quite worrying. So, you know, it's just a message to do these things properly. Right, rear brake and hub dismantling. As I said already, half shaft bolts on the end here, 21mm. Undo those. Same as the fronts, really. Take the calipers off. You've got to let the handbrake go. So what you need to do is run the engine, let the handbrake off whilst there's pressure in it, pop the pin out. That's this handbrake plunger here. Just take the pin out from the caliper there. Remember, I'm sure you know already, do not take those pistons apart. Don't take those air brakes apart because they will hurt. Anyway, calipers out. The other side I've done already was nicely seized. As you can see, this whole thing's had it. Caliper off, 4 bolts, 2 at the top here, 18mm head, 2 at the bottom there, 18mm head. Take your brake pipe off, slide the whole caliper off, take the pads out first if you want to. Mine was seized, and then you're going to use the hub nut spanner. Yeah, like I said already, this dirty great big hub nut spanner, special tool or chisel. Take out the hub nut, and this is a fixed bearing on here. Just be careful you take them out, and I'll show you that when I've got it off already. Welcome to another grim morning where we're going to take this hub off this side. Like I said, the other side, which was the off side, was actually finger tight, the nut on here, but this one is as tight as it can go. So if you look in there, I hope the camera's picking it up, there's a castellated nut in there. And like I said, people have used chisels, they've used all sorts of interesting things to get these undone with. They've done them incredibly tight, and this one is incredibly tight as well. So I'll show you what I'm going to use to get this undone. So I went out and bought this is a torque multiplier. It's a tool that multiplies torque, as the name might suggest. You attach your socket at this end of it. It goes for a gearbox, for a shaft, and there's a gearbox at this end where you wind a handle, which comes with it at this end, and it multiplies the torque, so less effort. So what I don't want to do is bounce up and down on scaffold poles with bars and bending and braking, especially when the vehicle's an axle stands. You know, to try and do it a little bit nicer. This is rated up to 7,500 Newton meters. Hope I never have to go to that. All we want is 700 to get this undone. So let's hook it up, see how it works. So I will confess you've actually done this already, because I didn't want to be seen grunting and groaning and losing my temper with this thing. So take your special tool, slot it in there. I've got an adapter. This adapter, right, it goes on there because this is a 1-inch drive into a 3/4 tool. We're going to put the torque multiplier on the end, and then we're going to take it off. We're going to put it on the right way around. Let's just get this a little bit better. So that what we'll do is we need to, and don't forget this tool is for undoing wheel nuts on trucks. So a little bit of fiddling there. So it is for this, but you need to adapt it a little bit. So what I've done, I've taken a great big pair of adjustable scaffold pole on the end, stick it on there, hold it down so you can feel the torque applying. It's really little effort, very, very little effort, and now I can see, hopefully you can see that nut is now turning, and it is completely effortless. When we come to put it back together, I'll show you how we're going to do that and how we're going to get the torque settings just right. So really it's quite simple. This is not expensive. I think it's about £55. It's one of those tools that sits in the workshop. You never use it until one day when you get a nut and you do need to use it, or you can sell it again. So it's just or hire one or whatever. So the castellated nut is off. Behind it there's a washer. These are not taper bearings, these are fixed bearings. I'll show you that in a bit. So all you need to do now is lift the hub off of there. Now I'm very, very careful how I take these hubs off. Don't just yank it off and drop it. Try and take it off squarely and evenly and slide it off neatly. You don't want to damage anything on this shaft. This one's a bit stuck. There you go. And it just pull off like that, nice and clean, like that. Oh my word, look at the state of this disc. You know, I knew they were bad, but I didn't know they were this bad. To be honest, you can't really see it that well underneath, otherwise I would have noticed it sooner. There's a great big chunk missing out of this disc here. This is one of the rears. This is the rear near side. There's a lump missing out of there that's not shiny, and I think that's where I felt the pedal was warped. I think that's the reason, because this disc just isn't working. So you know, I'm an experienced mechanic, and I've owned many vehicles and many cars, and blame myself for not noticing this a lot sooner than I did. It was working past the MOT okay, so obviously the grip was there, but it's not going to be as efficient as I'd like it to be. So check your brake discs, that's all I can say. Have a good look at them, probably better than I did. But now I've got an issue here. I noticed this earlier actually, that this hub on this side, the near side, it's quite misty, it's quite oily and damp, and if we look in there, there's some wetness in there. I don't like it. There's oil misting on the inside of the rim. And I know why now, because on the stub axle this bolts onto, there should be an O-ring. I'll show you on the one on the other side. Come with me a second. And out here on this side, at the end of this hub stub, there's a little, see this little sort of rubber O-ring. It doesn't really do a lot, but it does do a lot, but this little O-ring just sits there. And on the other side, this is missing. It's not on there. I noticed it when I took it off. It's not on there, so that's going to be the cause of my hub oil seal leaking. It's quite a simple little seal really, so we'll get a couple more of those before we put it back together. In the first video we did the front brakes. I showed you how to get these pistons out of your caliper there if you're going to recondition them. I suggest you watch that video to see how that's done. I will suggest yet again that, you know, I can't emphasize enough, if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not confident in repairing calipers, then just don't do it. Get a reconditioned one. You definitely need to, not skills, but you need a few tools. You definitely need an airline to do it. If you haven't got a compressor, you know, it's going to make it 10 times more difficult. But for the sake of for the record, I'll show you how these rear calipers, how the pistons come out of them, particularly this handbrake mechanism, because I didn't know until I learned it. I knew there was a way to do it. They are similar. The pistons inside are the same. This is what I've done earlier, but it's got an Allen head on the end there, as you can see. Still dripping, this one, and that screws into a lever, a thread on a lever. It's quite a simple thing really. So pull this lever and it pulls the shaft in here, and there's like quite a thick thread on it that's screwed into the back of this piston, so that when your handbrake's applied, pushes the lever and it shoves the piston out against the pad here in the disc. Now they're self-adjusting. You don't need to adjust them to set them up, but you've got to undo them to get them out, and that's done by the head here. This is an 8mm Allen head screw, and you simply just unwind it, right hand thread, unwind it as I'll demonstrate. I sort of got this one out already and I forgot to sort of show you, but yeah, 8mm Allen key, just unscrew it, and you can see, hopefully you can see that it's easing its way out as I turn it. See that? And it is starting to move out. So it's quite easy really. And when you put them back together, it's simply a reverse of this. That one's almost out actually. Unscrew it, and you can feel it winding its way out. It's not a difficult thing to do. When I come to reassemble it, I'll demonstrate that with you as well. Now it does come out all the way. It's almost gone there, that one. There you go, and that's out. What you can't do is use a long hex Allen head key there, because you've got to get in this little gap here. There's not a lot of room there, but as you can see, it comes out, wind off the last part of it, and there you go. You can see that's in there. This one's not too bad actually. It's actually not that rusty. It's not pitted, just a few marks in it. So I'll probably reuse these. You can get them. They're not hard to get hold of, but all these little marks are coming off, so they're quite clean. A bit of crud there, but we'll reuse those. They're okay. Again, for the record, let's put a bit of light in it. You can see that thread there. You can see how it works. I'm not sure it's going to move if I move the lever here, but yeah, you can see exactly how that pulls the piston in and out. So okay, as before, we're going to clean up these calipers, have a good inspection, and just see what we think. So reassembling calipers, same trick as before. Make sure you clean your pots out in there. Make sure those areas are very clean. Use your brake cleaner, which is one of the best things to use. Just puff a bit inside your chambers and you know, give them a good clean out. I like to use cotton buds. What I do is spray the end of this cotton bud, focus, spray the end of it with the brake cleaner and just wipe it around inside the grooves inside there. Make sure it's absolutely clean. You want to get any rust or nasty little pitting bits and pieces out of there, and then when you reassemble, use this red rubber grease to put your new seals in. When you put your new seals in, put a little blob of grease around the grooves inside there and just assemble them in there. I'll do that next. Alright, so I've wound it back in a little way just now, just to show you. Put your Allen head key in the top of there, wind it, and as you can see, the piston is going back into its groove, and hopefully that little dust cover, you see it now, will pop back into its groove and seal itself off nicely. I'll just check that it's going in quite nicely there. I've used the same pistons again on here because they were okay. They weren't pitted at all on the rear, but you know, in retrospect, go on there, it's going on, it's gone on there. Okay, you see it's gone in there quite nicely. It's gone back flush as well, so a couple of little turns on that. I'm not sure how the handbrake self adjusts. I'm sure it will. Oh, I see, it goes back to a point and the whole thing goes round and round, so that's as far back as it'll go. Looks like it's well back in there. In retrospect, you know, I would suggest this is an awkward thing to do, and if you're not competent in brakes, overhauling brakes, you're going to find this possibly a little tricky. I found that a bit awkward, and as I've said before, this is a demonstration. I'm not teaching you how to do these because maybe I'm not doing it the right way. Maybe somebody watching this is horrified, and they might be, probably justifiably so. Now, brakes aren't something you should mess around with lightly. I think I've got that right. It's gone back in there. If the seal wasn't in properly, it wouldn't go in. You'd never get that back in again. So it should be okay. I'm going to keep a close eye on these rear calipers because I was touch and go whether to change them for new ones or recondition ones or not. Just a little bit touch and go there, just on the edge. So if I get any kind of performance issues with it, you know, I'll keep an eye on that. It's not going to leak or anything, but I'll bear that in mind going forward. Anyway, let's do the other side. So something I just found, it might be something, it might be nothing, I don't know. I've just done the other caliper and noticed that the handbrake, we'll call this a handbrake piston, wasn't quite going back in as far as I wanted it to. This one seems to be sticking out a little bit. No, just a little bit dubious about that. It seems to be sticking out too far, whereas the hydraulic caliper piston, we'll call it that, it's going back in further. I'm just a little bit nervous about that. I don't want to put it all back together and find out. So I had a quick look at where it went together, and what seems to happen is, I'll try and explain it. If you see the head where the Allen key goes in there, it'll turn round and round, and as you screw it in, it pulls this piston back in, and with the lever here, which you can now see when you work it, you can see that pushes the piston back in and out to work your handbrake. So I was turning it and it wasn't really going anywhere, and I noticed I felt a notch. And what happened was, I can't demonstrate it now, so I started doing it, but when I turn the Allen key and tighten that up, if I push that in with my finger, as you can see, it's gone in, it's indented by a few millimeters, and it seems to have engaged something else. And now when I turn it, and we'll leave this handbrake in about the lever here in the halfway position, when I turn it, you can see that it's pulling it in even further. Now, it wasn't doing that a minute ago, it's just going round and round, it pulled it back to a point and stopped. So I'll explain that. When you put this handbrake piston back in again, or if you're just adjusting the handbrake, putting new pads in, push that in with your finger, make sure it's indented. When I first put these pistons in, that was kind of flush to the edge of the face of the piston there, and now I'm pulling that back in again. That's gone back in a long way, and I can feel it kind of pulling itself in. Yeah, so whatever mechanism that is, that's what it's supposed to do. See, now it's gone right back in there a bit more. So okay, so let's leave that there. So just a couple of points. The other caliper, when I came to put this handbrake piston in, I did it in a second. It's typical, isn't it? You know, I did it once, I went puff, and it went straight in. We should have filmed that one. So it's not that difficult. These seals, this is the old one. There's no right and wrong way up to them. I can't see a right and the wrong way up to them. They look like just flat seals. So if you're thinking, does it go that way? Does it go that way? You know, it only goes one way up. Often wonder how they work. You know, that's actually your whole braking system depends on those. So that's that done. So both my calipers are now back together. I'm quite happy with that, but I'll say again, I'm borderline whether I should have just changed these. I think if I wasn't demonstrating this on YouTube, I'll probably go and buy a couple of reconditioned ones of these. I don't know how this back end of this handbrake end works, if any seals in there, certainly not leaking, and how this whole assembly goes, how that actually works. So I know it does work. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. I didn't change the sliders, the sliding carriage that goes in there. They work okay, they're not seized at all, but these ones, unlike the fronts, they're sealed at the back there, so you can't take them apart. You probably could if I drilled them out, but I didn't. Do you know what, I was just about to put the new disc on here. I'm going to show you how it's done as quick as anything, but it just occurred to me that, talking earlier about this O-ring that sits in here, that's that little O-ring. Don't get that. This little O-ring here, I won't take it out of the packet yet, which kind of sits on the stub axle, which fits in there, and that sits on that to stop oil from leaking outside of here. Now on this side, it was missing. As I said, this side was already missing, and so, but looking at it, I think this is an oil seal as well. This outer ring here, I think that's a sealed bearing. You change the whole bearing to make that. I hope that wasn't leaking, because if that's leaking, I've got to take this off again. And anyway, I can be sure now to put it back together, drive it, and see if it still leaks again. I assume no, because you've got this, as I say, you've got this drain hole here, so that when it all leaks out, it leaks out the drain hole and flings out everywhere, so you can see it okay. But yeah, just bear that in mind when you take it apart. Just check this out. There's no damage to this seal here. I'm pretty sure that is a seal. It would make sense. Anyway, so to put the disc on this. I don't know why I'm showing you this, but you know, make sure your surfaces are clean, which is all we do. Just put your disc in and just you know, bolt it up. I'll give you the torques that it needs when we do our final assembly. So before we put the hub back on again, we've checked out this stub axle. I'll put a new O-ring on here. I would suggest you do that anyway, actually thinking about it. We've made sure the surface behind it is clean. Just make sure these threads aren't clogged up with grit or dirt. And when we put the hub on, put it on, it's a really heavy thing to do, but I would suggest, with the axle stand, I would suggest you put it on gently, you know, just slide it on cleanly and gently, and hold it there while you put the nut on. Like I said, I've heard some horror stories about things that go wrong here, and we want to make sure that that hub is fully home before we lock off the lock nut. Get under with it, get it on there. She goes nice and easy. There you go. It feels okay. Feels like it's gone home. This is the right hand side, so right hand thread. Spinner on there. Clean up, isn't it? Seating properly, and just give that a little turns it already. This goes a lot tighter than this. Get that on there. It's okay. It's the first time for me as well, so just nip that up like that. Really, the lock nut has gone past where it was before. Like I said, it came off finger tight. That feels okay. It's gone right back home here. That looks all right to me. Looks fine. Okay, interesting. That's gone a bit tighter already, and we've got to yet to set the correct torque on this. I'll show you a very interesting way of doing that, doing it the right way when we come to it. Right, so here's the setup. We've got the digital torque wrench attached to the torque multiplier, which is in turn anchored to the ground by a dirty great pair of adjustable spanners and a long scaffold pole. So we're aiming for 700 Newton meters, just so you can see where we are. You turn the handle at the back here, torque is applied, and this thing lets off a little beep when it gets close to it. There you go, so it's telling me it's close. When it goes beep, that's at 700, it's actually 730 I'm showing there, so that's good enough for me. Actually, that's gone click. I made that look simple, but I did wind it in just to try it out first, and it has gone much tighter than it had done before. In fact, let's take a look at that. So yeah, that was a dodder. I think I filmed myself taking this off. You can see where those two little dots were. That's where it was when I took it off. I tightened up to 700 Newton meters, and you can see I've now got to just pin over the end of the nut here, just into this groove. Just use a chisel or drift, actually, not a chisel. Use a drift just to dent in the edge of this nut so it doesn't come undone again. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that actually. I'm quite satisfying to do it up to the correct torque, and it is quite easy. It's effortless. So you don't need to swing on a scaffold pole and a big spanner, try and do it up yourself, or even hit it with a chisel, which is what someone appears to have done before. I really don't recommend doing that. It's not the right way to do it. So here's a life tip for you. How did I pin over this edge here? It's really awkward to get in there with a just a drift, because the angle's just wrong. It's too shallow and you can't hit it. It's not doing anything at all. But you've got to do it absolutely sure that you bend that over, because the last thing you want is a wheel falling off. Look at that, because you right through the other side through here. So the way I've done it, get a nice big fat drift, place it against the edge of the part that you want to pin over, take a flat chisel, put it over the top of the dowel, you can't really see it, and then tap in that chisel, it goes tight, and then bend the dowel down. Sort of slipped out there, I've done it already, as you can see. If you can see that, I've pinned that over. Be absolutely certain, and I can't emphasize this enough really, it worries me, that you pin that over enough so that this nut, right hand thread though it is never going to come undone by itself. Absolutely, you know, it's one of those vital things that I really want you to pay attention to. Make sure that's sealed on there. I've seen people weld these on, which is a bit extreme, but okay, so that's the way to do it. I wouldn't do it, I could. So make sure you pin that over and bend it over, not too much, you haven't got to crush the thing, but as I've done there, just to make sure that's not going to come down. The little mark there, I put that on there just so I know where it should be, just in case there's an issue. Okay, so hope you've watched this bit. So just in case you're wondering the make and model, it was this Nyko digital torque adapter, 200 to 1000 Newton meters, pretty hefty really. It's a 3/4 drive one as well, and it came calibrated. I mean, it was about 100 quid, I think it was, and it came calibrated with a certificate, so I'll trust it, you know, to be as near to 700 that we require as we can get. So we'll put our faith in that. It certainly went up tighter than it came off, so that's got to be something, hasn't it? So as if by magic, we've got some new brake pipes here. There we go, put them on, easy enough to make. The problem I've got on my particular Vario is this brake hose here. Now, one on each side, so there's one that goes in from the caliper to there, that goes to you know, onto the axle, while another brake pipe to the T-piece. The problem I came across is that I saw this one off because it sees, you know, put it in front of the camera rather than around it, it sees, so I had to cut it off. The problem I've got is these are not listed anywhere. I couldn't find anything, any reference to them. I think these were sort of, you know, one-off, 1 year they made them. So yours will be different to this. You may potentially have a different end on your brake pipe there, so you know, make sure you find the right one. All I could do was do an internet search for a brake hose that was 330 millimeters long with an M10 female end on each end, and something came up, and that's not been delivered yet, but I've got something coming at that measurement with these ends that's coming. I don't actually know what it fits. I think it might be a Mercedes still, but I just did an internet search. It was Autodoc again, oddly enough, who came up with the one, but I couldn't see what it fit. Maybe I'll find out and see if I can stick it in the comments or something. I'll stick it somewhere if I find out what it was. But if you've got one like this, then one of those tricky things to find. So I didn't really show this on the last one, did I? On the front brakes, I've put my half shaft in, put my hub back on, we've tied that up. Now it's time to clean up these discs. So they come covered in a film of oil. Take the brake cleaner, just spray it out on both sides. Nice coating. There you go. And that will dissolve the film of grease that's on there. So a nice clean cloth. A nice clean cloth. Give that a wipe round both sides. You know, it's not thick grease, it's not going to go everywhere. If you've got a parts degreaser, then by all means use one. I don't have one because I don't have the space for it actually, but just make sure you've got all the grease off that. And then once that's nice and clean, nice and dry, we can put the caliper back on. It's really comfy when you're putting this thing back on. It's a heavy old nut. Try and manoeuvre it in place without in there. One bolt in there, and then we'll put in the rest using a bit of Loctite. I use Loctite 648. It's okay, I've used it for lots of things, it's okay. There are different types of Loctite, but I go with this one, thread lock, it works okay. Other thread locks are available, so blob on each bolt, tighten them into the correct torque. Right, there we go, 4 bolts bolted up, and just before the rain sets in again on this wonderful day, these need to be torqued up to 110 Newton meters. I'll put a link, if you can't hear me, I'll put a link in the comments for that. 110 Newton meters per bolt. That's my torch battery going there. And I believe if you watch me grunt with this thing that I can't get the torque wrench on the bottom bolt. Right then, okay, I can't get a torque wrench on the bottom bolt, so I'm going to use an old-fashioned torque wrench. Way in the way, yeah, it probably is. What is this? Yeah, I know, it's a bodge, I know, you're horrified. But do you know what? That'll do. There you go. Sometimes you just have to compromise, don't you? But there's something behind this bottom bolt at the top, and 3 of them are at the, I can get to, but the bottom one here, just there's a spring hanger, U-bolt's right next to it, I can't get anything on it. So that'll do, that'll be okay. Remember, don't do as I do, or do as I say. Right, here comes the rain, I'm going to stop this video. The thing with working outside, I don't have the benefit of a barn or a big garage I can put my van in. All I've got is my grubby little workshop, so, and my driveway here. So everything I do is outside, at the mercy of the weather, so get a downpour. Probably can't see on camera, but it's raining quite heavily here. You just have to wait for it to pass. Just one thing I noticed, you saw I had 2 axle stands under both sides of the vehicle. That's because, you know, if this thing falls off its axle stands, I've got 5-ton axle stands under there. It's on a gravel driveway, you know. If this thing falls off at axle stands, you're going to go meet your maker, aren't you? You know, there's no way around that. So just be absolutely safe as you work underneath things. You know, I'm always going on about safety. You don't always see me wearing gloves. I'm wearing gloves today, and I should do. But ear protection, eye protection, I'm always going on about that, and safety in general. Just be sure you're safe out there, guys and girls. You know, you don't mess around with these things. They're too big and heavy. Time now to put the brake pads back in. Yeah, I go for these Bosch ones. They're probably not made by Bosch. I don't know who makes them, but they've got the Bosch label on them. You know, they're Bosch packaging, so it's you know, wherever they come from, you've got at least some kind of guarantee with it, I guess. I find cheap brake pads because it's quite a vital thing. So Bosch brake pads, they come with anti-squeal shims on the back here. That's what these little things are. But I do like to put a little bit of anti-seize, some copperies on the edges there, just to keep it from seizing and getting too rusty. So don't go, obviously the brake pads don't go mad with it, just a little bit on each edge. He said putting too much on, just around the edges like that, where the contact points are, where the pads slide backwards and forwards. And it does work, because I've taken pads off that have been on for thousands of miles, worn out, and it's still got the copperies on them. It tends not to melt. It's quite good stuff. For many things, in fact, actually, it's good anti-seize. Don't put it on your wheel nuts, by the way, because it won't. We don't do that. Okay, so yeah, just a little bit of copperies and each leading edge. All these pads are the same. They're not sided. Front and rear are the same as well, which is quite unusual. I've never seen that before. So the front pads are the same as the rear pads. These are quite nice. They've got a chamfered edge, which also helps against squeaking. There you go, just a little bit like that, and we'll stick them in a second. Don't get any on the brake surface. Goes without saying, doesn't it? God, I do have to tell you everything. Can you hear the rain out there? Can you hear it raining? So next, to add these brake pad sensors here, you don't have to change these. Yeah, you don't have to change these, but I did. You can probably get the old ones out. Actually, looking at this, I don't know which hole it goes in. I won't know till I put it on the caliper. Basically, what you do is you see the little hole there. Try and line it up. There you go. That little hole there. You just take the pin, and it just simply slots down the side of the pad like that into its casing. That pin goes in the little hole, and you clip it in there. There you go. I won't push it home. What happens is as you push it home, it'll click and stays in there, and you stick the other end of it on the plug that's on your caliper. If you've got these, I mean, some of you will have ABS and things, which I don't have, and obviously I've not covered those for obvious reasons. I don't have it in these videos for ABS and for differences between the types of truck. I do believe that calipers and brake pads are the same. Well, they're the same, a lot of them anyway. So if none of what I've done matches your vehicle, then I'm sorry, but I've only got one Vario. If I get more, I'll do videos on those as well. What else can I tell you? While I wait for the rain to stop, these brake pad retaining plates, you know, you don't have to change them. I've got the old one here, and there's the old one. You know, it looks alright. It's not rusty or anything, but these pads are held in by this. So there's no pins that go through it. There's no pins and clips that go through, and as you normally see, it's literally held on by this retaining plate. So it's this edge here is what pushes against the top of the pad. Where are you? On top of it like that, pushes it in, as you've probably seen. So, you know, for the sake of, I think it was £6, just over £6 or £7 this was, you know, put some new ones on. It looks nice as well. You know, we like things to be shiny. I mean, it comes with new bolts. It's just something you should always do, really, as a matter of matter of good housekeeping, I would say. Right, brake pads in. Let's put this retaining clip on. It goes in one way, actually it's sided, so it's got a little lip. I'll show you that. It's got a lip on one side that goes to the outside. You'll see how it goes if you come to do these. You see I put the brake pad sensors in there already. Like I say, you see it sits on top of these pads. It's a funny old thing, the way it works. So tighten them down, tighten them both down. That little lip goes on the outside of the caliper. And that is actually what holds your pads in, this thing. And you can see straight away the tension that it puts on it. Clamp them in there quite nicely, actually. So, right, next bit. Next to put these things back into its little socket there. Little pad sensors. Tighten the wires up so they don't get caught up in anything. Turns free, that's nice. That's looking good, isn't it? Good. There you go. See, doesn't that look nice? The brake pipe's put on, got to bleed them out. We haven't put the handbrake on yet because I don't want to. I want to bleed it first. That's pretty much that's it. That's it. Happy with that. Let's torque up these bolts here. Don't forget to do those. And obviously the half shaft bolts. Okay, right. So the brakes are bled. Fairly good pedal. All it remains now is to put the handbrake back together. There's the old clevis pin that came out of that. As we focus doing, it's pretty worn and nasty looking. So new clevis pins, straight from Amazon really, just 10mm by 40 clevis pins. Just replace them, make sure you grease them as you put them in. What I've got to do now is just run up the engine, release the handbrake, pop them back in again. There we are then, all complete. Doesn't that look nice? Nice two shiny bits on here. New brake pipes, new brake hoses, bled out nicely. One tip I will give you is something, a mistake I made, is put the handbrake clevis pin back in before you put the pads in. I had to take the pads out, put the pin in, and then put the pads back in again, and it's fine, it works okay. Also, just apply and release the handbrake a few times with the with air in it to just adjust it. It took a little while. At first it wasn't actually locking, but now it's locking up solid, so it obviously self-adjusts fairly quickly. So what we need to do now is to torque up these bolts, put the wheels back on, and give it a road test. So the moment you're waiting for, 205 newton meters, 135 newton meters, that's the disc to the hub, and the wheel nuts on this one, the smaller version, 90mm nut, is 180. It's very, very important. New Vario owners, if you're watching, it's really important that you do this. 180 newton meters on these, and you need to check them after 50, 100 kilometers. Just check them whenever you go, get the chance to do it. Don't neglect that. These have got a bad habit of coming loose, these wheels, and when you don't want that to happen, it wrecks these things completely. So 205, 135, 180. So that's all my brakes done then. Quite a bit of work. Didn't cost too much money. It took a lot of time, especially when you're working in the rain, which, if you haven't guessed already, the rain is my nemesis. And we come out today and look at it, it's a quite nice bright sunny day, isn't it? Always the way, isn't it? So I've come out, actually come on a test ride, but I thought I'd come to Ashdale Forest and walk the doggos as well. And the brakes are terrible. Of course they are. They're all new, so they're not bedded in. There's a spongy pedal then we're going to be out straight away. So give you a bit of time. I mean, they're working, but you know, just driving home, no brakes. Give you a bit of time, and I'll update you on how more efficient and how pleased I am with them once they're bedded in. So again, thanks for sitting through this. Thanks for watching. Look out for the next one.